morning, my fellow traders. My name is Michalis and I'm one of the market analysts here at HF Markets. And in today's live trading session, we're going to be looking at the euro against the US dollar. Now, the reason we're looking at the euro against the US dollar is because we've seen the euro, generally speaking, across the market significantly decline. It's declined for various reasons. One of the reasons is because Germany, France, and many European nations have released economic data which is extremely weak. In addition to this, the main economies are seeing lower inflation data as well. Now, because we're seeing weak economic data across the EU, lower inflation as well, the ECB president has repeatedly said this week that there is going to be more interest rate cuts. Now, because of that dovishness, we are seeing a decline in the euro across the market. Now, at the same time, this week so far, the US dollar is trying to regain some lost ground. It's doing so because we've had some better employment data than previously expected. In addition to this, the Federal Reserve has become slightly more hawkish than previously thought. Now, if we're looking at technical analysis is also indicating a similar story because we've got two currencies, one increasing in value, the other decreasing in value. So there's no conflicts there. Whereas if both were increasing or both were decreasing, it will be slightly more difficult to analyze. Now, if we're looking at technical analysis, we are seeing two scenarios. We're seeing scenario number one that we're definitely seeing the Euro USD being controlled by sellers, so moving in favor of the US dollar. But scenario number two is that it is retracing. So how do we trade this? Potentially, where can we find different areas where we may look to take advantage of the price movement? Now, if we're looking at technical analysis, we can see, number one, when we're looking at the highs, we can see even as the price is currently retracing, we're still seeing lower highs. If we're looking at the price lows, again, we're still following that scenario that the euro is losing momentum against the US dollar. Now, we've seen a very large decline. And when we do see a very large decline, like we have over the past 48 hours, it is, of course, understandable that the price will retrace. Now, what we need to look at is to what area potentially can the price retrace. Now, if we're looking at the Fibonacci retracement indications, there's two main areas that we can look at. Now, area number one is the 23.6 level on the Fibonacci retracement levels. Why? Because we can see this previously was a support area here, and it also was a support area here as well. So the support areas a lot of the time are known to be flipped onto resistant levels. So this is one area on the Fibonacci retracement we can look at. The 50 level is a very popular level as well, and again you can see it's an area where the price, number one, found repeatedly support, like we can see here, and also number two, if we're looking at the price range, is more or less at the average price of the price range. So we're looking at two areas where potentially the price may retrace to. So far, it's already retraced to 23.6. Now, what we're going to look at is if we're going to retrace to those levels, are we then going to see the continuation of the downward trend? Now, in order to be able to determine that, we're going to switch over onto a 5-minute time frame because we're about to get a lot of economic data, especially for employment, from the US. Now, if that data is higher than expected, then we're going to see more momentum in favor of the US dollar. As that does happen, then of course we want to see potentially where we can see areas to take advantage of that downward price movement. Something extremely important to be looking at is the ADP NFP change, tomorrow's weekly unemployment claims, as well as the ISM services PMI, and also on Friday, of course, we've got the non-farm payroll figures. Now, if all of these data is better than expected, of course, it is in favor of the US dollar, so the Euro USD, to again start declining. So where can we potentially look at areas to start speculating price movement in favor of the US dollar? Now, if we're going to look at the Fibonacci retracement levels, the 65 is a key level that if we drop below the 65, we have a potential signal that the price of the Euro USD is going to decline. So that's one area that we can look at. So this blue line, if we cross below it, potentially we can use that as an area to speculate the decline. Alternatively, we can look at the crossover. Now we can see here the yellow line crossed above the green line. That's an indication of upward momentum. We could have taken advantage of that, but I'm not going to speak too much about that because it's already happened. We can see the price is already significantly increased. But what we can now look at is for the next crossover. So as is an upward crossover now, we can look at the downward crossover. Now the downward crossover, ladies and gentlemen, will happen approximately here. Because you can see if we continue to see downward momentum like so far, we're starting to see, we haven't yet seen, but we're starting to see signs of that. As soon as it crosses over downward, we can again look at that as a potential signal that the price will decline. The last thing I will say is if we're going to see the price fall slightly further downwards and then we get the price retracing back upwards, as long as we're not increasing to the previous high. If we increase to the previous high here, it's actually indicating that buyers are still very clearly active within the market. If it retraces and it's to a lower level, so you can see here we got a high, if it retraces and then we're at a lower high, we can see that actually there's a scenario here where potentially the price can decline. Now if something like that does happen, then we can look at the breakout. The breakout, we will see, for example, an entry potentially at this point because it's the breakout of the swing low. So those are three potential entry points that we can potentially look at if the price of the Euro USD is going to decline. As even as we're speaking, when we first started speaking, the price was approximately somewhere here. Even as we're speaking, the price already declined by almost 0.04%. If we're looking at scalpers, they're probably already hitting their take profit. But these are potentially three areas that we can look at based on technical analysis where we have indications that the price may start a signal that the price will decline. Ideally though, what we want to see is that the euro as an individual currency will be declining, so we can look at the euro index, the US dollar index will be increasing in value, and today for us to see a higher than expected ADP non-farm employment change, and also for tomorrow's employment and economic data to be better than previously expected. So that's it for today, my fellow traders. Enjoy the rest of your day. Always, like I say, trade safe, trade responsibly. We can see the prices declining like we have been saying so far. So enjoy the rest of your day. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to get into contact with us. And don't forget, here at HFM, you have the option and the trading account to, number one, trade with extremely low spreads, and number two, to trade without any swap fees. So of course you have that option. Keep that in mind as well. In the meantime though, take care and goodbye.